2024 has been a stellar year for markets, but are those gains quietly creating a ticking tax bomb in your RSP? Well, today we're going to show you how to adjust your RRSP Meltdown to keep your tax bill low and your retirement on track after a strong market year. An RRSP Meltdown is a strategy designed to reduce the amount of taxes you pay throughout your retirement. The idea is pretty simple. Pay taxes today, so make withdrawals from your RRSP or RIF while you're in a low tax bracket, rather than letting your estate face tax rates that could exceed 50%. So what happens after a strong year in the market? Well, the value of your RRSP or RIF is likely going to be higher than you anticipated, which is great, but this is also going to significantly impact your withdrawal strategy moving forward. Take Neil, for example. Earlier this year, we built out a portfolio and a plan to have his RIF depleted by the time he was 90 years old. But fast forward, and his portfolio is now up 25% on the year. So if we stuck to that same strategy, he would be dying with $600,000 remaining in his RIF, a tax headache to say the least. We're going to take a look at how we can adjust Neil's plan moving forward. But first, let's take a look at the plan that we had put together for him earlier this year. Neil is 67 years old and he has $625,000 in his non-registered account, $185,000 in his tax-free savings account, and $700,000 in a RIF. He had no income outside of his CPP and OAS, which paid him about $1,600 per month. Neil wanted to spend $5,000 per month indexed to inflation throughout his retirement. So after factoring in his CPP and OAS, the difference would come from his portfolio. He also wanted to ensure that his estate wouldn't be left with a huge tax bill due to his RIF, hence why we were implementing a meltdown strategy. Neil was quite confident that he'd be living to 90 years old, so he didn't want to be overly aggressive with the meltdown. So for Neil's meltdown strategy, we targeted a taxable income of $80,000 per year. So after factoring in his CPP and OAS, he would make withdrawals from his RIF until his income again hit that $80,000 mark. This would provide him with enough cash flow after tax to meet his expenses, and it would leave him with very little remaining in his RIF at age 90 with around $36,000. This would have a negligible impact on his final tax bill. I should also mention that in these assumptions, we're using a rate of inflation of 3%. So every year, Neil will have to increase his expenses by 3% to keep up with the cost of living. As for his rate of return, we're using a rate of 5.62% throughout his retirement. If you like these types of examples, then check out our retirement withdrawal guide in the description below to master your meltdown strategy. So this is the plan that we had put together for Neil at the beginning of the year. However, the portfolio that we had put together for him had a terrific year and was now up 25%. His non-registered account had grown to $781,000, his TFSA was now worth $231,000, and his RIF had grown to $845,000 even after factoring in some withdrawals throughout the year. While this growth was fantastic, the math behind our meltdown strategy was now completely off. If Neil stuck to the same strategy of targeting a taxable income of $80,000 per year and having that go up by 3% every year to keep up with the cost of living, he would still have $600,000 remaining in his RIF at age 90, a tax nightmare for his estate. So we needed to adjust Neil's plan moving forward. Now, in light of the performance in his account, we'd now be targeting a taxable income of $90,997. And again, we'd be increasing that amount by 3% every year to keep up with the cost of living. This would reduce the value of his RIF to $265,000 by the time he was 90, making his estate much more tax effective. Now, we would love to be more aggressive with the meltdown to have his RIF completely depleted by the time he was 90. But if we increase our taxable income any further, he's going to be subject to the OAS clawback. Neil's story is just an example of how a single variable like market performance can drastically change your withdrawal strategy. And this could be any variable. So your expenses, your health, inflation, all these will have a dramatic impact on your plans over time. In putting together these types of videos, viewers often reach out to put together a one-time meltdown plan. They might be working with an advisor and not receiving this type of advice, or they might be a DIY investor just looking for help on the planning side of things. However, there is no such thing as a one-time plan when it comes to putting together a meltdown strategy. It needs to be constantly updated as variables will inevitably change over time. Had Neil stuck to the plan that we had originally put together for him over the next 20 years, he would land severely offline from where he intended. Planning for retirement isn't about setting it and forgetting it. It's about constant recalibration. If you're looking for a partner to help you navigate both the markets and the tax side of your retirement, then check us out at transcanadawealth.com.